Hey, and welcome to this month's episode of the PG-ish podcast and both podcast Roundtable. Each month, Erin Holland, the host of PG-ish, and I sit with two guests, either some that I've had on or she's had on, or generally a mix, and we get a little bit deeper into some stories that we featured on our own episodes. And so this month, I am joined by Amri Kibbler and Heather Chauvin. They have both been guests on and both before. They are both fabulously determined and massively productive humans. And so both of them had spoken a little bit about their own cancer journey and how that really gummed up the works, so to speak, when they were in the midst of it. And so we decided to dive a little bit more into that. And so this episode, we talk about the advocating for your own health. We talk about really listening to yourself and what it means to slow down when you can't slow down because you are a mom, you are a business owner, you are doing all of these things, and how that plays out or how that can play out. And so great conversation, incredible women, and here it is. Hello and welcome to the And Both podcast. Here we are going to hear from moms and those in motherhood that are doing the thing that works for them. They are honoring themselves alongside the all-encompassing role and level of expectation that is motherhood. And we are going to hear from as many different people as possible in their own experience. So you can find people to relate to. You can hear stories that will make you laugh, make you cry, all of the above, and that we will come together as a community to support one another in a way that is holistic and honoring of the woman and the mother as a whole. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the And Both PG-ish podcast Roundtable. I feel like we are maybe due for a title on this one because we've been doing this for a little while and we just keep smashing it all together. But welcome to Erin, my co-host, and Heather and Amri for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
so excited for this conversation.
Yes, I'm really thrilled about this conversation because I've had the absolute pleasure of meeting both of you before and having you as guests on my podcast. And then I have been on both of your podcasts, which I just realized. So that's exciting. A very full circle, all the podcasty moments. But one of the things, or the thing that I wanted to, the reason why I wanted you guys to come together is that you both have one really terrible similarity. And that's like the worst intro ever. But the experiences that you guys have had have led to some massive changes in your life and the way that you guys approach life and business. And you're both like absolutely killing it. So how about if we kick off with you, Heather, if you want to just give like a little bit of a backstory and then we'll kick it over.
Yeah, so it's going to be a trauma bonding conversation. So I'm assuming you're talking about cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Like which trauma situation, right?
Pick a lane, gosh.
Should I pull out my chart? Being a mother at 18, stage 4 cancer in 2013, going through pandemic, being a breadwinner, sole income earner, like which one? Where are we going here? So, yeah. In 2013, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 sporadic Burkitt's lymphoma. My abdomen was, or at the time, my youngest, I have 3 boys, my youngest was a year old. And I kind of just kept telling myself, like, I'm getting my body back, or, you know, I knew something was off, but I was very, very disconnected from my body. And my abdomen just started to swell. And I thought, oh, damn, I have a gluten allergy. I'm one of those people. I got to start drinking green juice because that was the thing back then. But I was so overwhelmed by health and wellness and all the things. I had about 9 years of personal development under my belt at that point. My former life as a social worker, I was building my business. Yeah, so I went to the hospital. They did a CT on my abdomen, blood work, and I left the first night because I didn't think I was worthy of being seen because I wasn't sick enough. You know, I don't need to be here. I convinced myself to leave, which is such a woman thing to do. But I was like, stay in the room, stay in the room. So the next night, my husband actually drove me to the hospital and sat next to me and wouldn't let me run away. And after they told me on the spot, you have cancer, Heather, we just don't know what kind. And I knew. There was a part, I talk about it in my book, there was a confirmation of like, I already knew this and I was running away from it. So that's a creepy part. And I could go on, but that's just an introduction.
Step one.
And one of the best things about cancer, I mean, if there are any best things, is how it really can bond you to people. Like there is that aspect of, I have met some amazing people and I've had some women hold my hand and be cancer mentors and friends for me. And they have been like a rock in my life. So there is that. So my story is I was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer in December of 2020. And it was like heavy in the pandemic. I've been not feeling well, having symptoms since about March of 2020. But of course, it was the pandemic. We moved from Brooklyn to upstate New York. So I didn't have a doctor. I kept trying to get appointments. No one would see me because I had like symptoms, but my symptoms were not COVID symptoms. But if you had anything, like nobody wanted you coming into their office. It was like, nope, sorry, we're not seeing any new patients. Nope, sorry, nope, sorry. So it took me a while. I finally went back to the medical group I was working with in Manhattan, which was one of those like designer practices where you go in if you have a cold, because I was super healthy, guys. I took care of myself. I looked really healthy. Like, how could I possibly be really sick? There was in my mind, like, how could, it's got to be just like some little thing. And so they said the same thing. Your blood work looks great. You seem really healthy. You look really great. Wow, you're cardiovascular, like amazing. But I continued to not feel well. And so eventually I went to a gastroenterologist who said the same thing. He was like, but you look really great. Do you want to have a colonoscopy? And I was like, well, of course I don't want to have a colonoscopy. Who wants to have a colonoscopy? Do I need one? And he's like, I don't really think so. So more months went by. And I finally went to another doctor in Manhattan who didn't take my insurance, of course. And he did the same thing, all of the tests, everything all over again. And finally was like, listen, you need to go and have a colonoscopy. I would suggest you go to the nearest hospital from where you live and schedule one right away. So the next day I called up and I found a surgeon who'd see me. And I went into his office and went over all of my symptoms with him and got out his little like book and was like, so I have some availability day after tomorrow. Do you think you could come in? And like red flags should have gone off in my head that he didn't have any availability. He was just very alarmed by my symptoms and wanted to get me in. So I, went in for the colonoscopy, woke up and they were like, yes, we're 99.9% sure you have, colon cancer. You need to stay here. We're keeping you in the hospital. You have to do all of these other tests and scans and all of that before we can tell you what stage it is. But, that's where we are. And same thing in my mind, I had somehow known, like, I'd done my Google search and I was like, oh, somewhere in my heart, I knew that it really was cancer, but I was running away from it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to believe it. And I was in denial. And I thought, okay, I'm a healthy person to take care of myself. It can't be. I'm just not going to face it and it's going to go away. But it doesn't go away. It's there. It's the reality.
Well, that's what we do as moms too. We just hold it together for everyone else, right? And push things aside. It's like, maybe I know this thing about me. I understand my body. Don't really want to believe in the intuition of it all, even though I really know. Let's just keep moving forward, pushing things along, and maybe someday I'll address it. But yeah, that someday actually comes.
Definitely. And I feel like intuition has become my like number one word, and the thing that I've really learned in all parts of my life is I wasn't trusting my intuition in every area of my life at that point in time. I wasn't trusting my intuition in my business. I wasn't trusting my intuition in my personal life. And I definitely wasn't trusting my connection to myself and my health and trusting myself that something was wrong and that I needed to push forward. And, it wasn't until a couple of years into my treatment and recovery that I finally really got solid on that. And it's made a huge difference in my life. And like the sooner that we can really feel confident and trusting ourselves, because we do know so much of what our health and wellness gets down to is that because you only have 20 minutes when you go in to see the doctor, maybe 15 even. They're like rushing you through. So what you have to do is be able to share what you know, which is yourself, like what's happening with your body, what you know about your body. And to do that, you have to get to know yourself, which is a whole process and something that it's like life-changing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important to, highlight, draw like big lightning bolts around for both of you guys is this idea of like, I knew that something was not right. And then there's all of the stuff that comes in. It's like you pushing you into the deep end of the wave pool, right? It's like, no, you have a 1-year-old and everyone's telling you about the green juices and the more sleep and the later on, maybe it's perimenopause, like all of these things that kind of have not clearly defined symptoms to them or clear markers for is where we'd rather live. Like we'd rather live in the gray, right? Because then you don't have that like this, like you're in the shit right now and this is all sideways. And there is no way to work around it. You've got to get into the really terrible parts of it. And the fact that you guys both knew going in, like it's that long walk down the hospital hall. Like I know that I am going to get bad news. And I have goosebumps because I just it happened so much, and it happens not necessarily with people that I know related to cancer, because that's not something that's come up a ton in my life, thankfully, with other people. But it's just this knowing, I knew something was not there, or I knew something was wrong, but I just didn't want to get after that. And I know, Heather, you are really good about being like, stick in sand. Here is how I feel. And this led to a whole bunch of changes for you in your business and your life and all of that.
So I would say the whole stick in sand, this is how I feel, is a muscle, like a skill. And while we were talking, I was thinking about advocacy and how if that was for my kids or my husband or anybody else, how I would march into the school or the hospital and be like, I am not leaving until someone listens. And that leadership, right? The amount of discernment and assertiveness to communication skill to be like, there's something wrong here and we need answers. That is the power of a woman. And a well-resourced woman, who has the capacity and skill to do that, will literally move mountains. Now, I know that we're never going to do this for ourselves in this capacity, but I will tell you that one of the women in my life was my stepmother. And although there's been a little conflict there at times, she looked me dead square in the eyes and she said, you need to readmit yourself or you're not going to make it to your oncology appointment on Tuesday. She was the only person, because I was deteriorating after I got my diagnosis because it was in the middle of the holiday season. And then I was like, I'll just hang on. I see my doctor on Tuesday. And she's like, you are deteriorating rapidly. You need to get readmitted. And my brain was just shutting down. My organs were shutting down. And I think of these little tiny moments of how I was crying on another workshop I had to do this morning. I was like, what is going on with me? The power of women when we are just fucking alive. And I talk a lot about feeling alive and have more time and more energy and do the things you need to do to become well-resourced, open your damn bank account or make more money or do the thing. And it is just so sad because I'm sure any crisis that's happened, you can see it so clearly in other people. And I'm women just coming to me barely, just burnt to a crisp. And I'm like, if you don't change, if you don't move the ship now, like it's going to be too late. And I'm like, you don't have a diagnosis yet, but your body is shutting down, and something's got to break for you to say, okay, I'm finally listening. So, sometimes it's your children's behavior. Sometimes it's a marriage. Sometimes it's your bank account. Sometimes it's your health. And I don't, this whole like, how do you want to feel and feel alive and energized and abundant and free? I don't give a shit about that stuff. What I actually care about is being of service, and I don't take care of myself for me. I don't want to be a burden to my family. I have to convince my brain of how becoming more well-resourced is actually being of service to the world. And that is how I've convinced myself not to burn out and stay in a state of survival post-cancer.
And when you said advocate, in my mind, of course, like there's those people in your life. And my person who finally pushed me to really go and get to the bottom of everything was my husband's best friend. And I don't think I would have gotten a diagnosis if it hadn't been for him and his wife. They said, we know who you are and you haven't been yourself. You are super fatigued, like I feel like you're barely interested. You're normally like so passionate and energetic and taking care of everybody. And they could see that in me, but I couldn't see that in me. And sometimes it does take someone from the outside to be that advocate. And whenever I see someone who I feel like needs that, I try to stand up and do that, because I I don't think that I would have gotten my diagnosis. I don't think I would have gotten care. I probably wouldn't even be here today. And, as you were saying, if we're not fully well and able to take care of ourselves, everyone else in the whole family is going to suffer, because, you know, during the time that I was in treatment, and Heather, I'm sure it was the same for you, there was so many things that fell by the wayside, so many things that didn't get done, so many little things that I wanted to show up for my kids, for my husband, and all of that. And, I know now that if I'm not prioritizing my health and making those appointments and following up on all the things that used to be on the bottom of my list, right? Like that they weren't even on the list, to be perfectly honest with you, because I was healthy. So I didn't need to, be making all of that time to explore what was happening with my health and prioritize all of my screenings and all those things that you have to do until after getting a cancer diagnosis. Now they're on the top of my list all of the time, because I also know when I'm burnt out and I'm fatigued and those things come back up, like after treatment, it takes years to get your energy back. And it you're just, I feel like for me, I'm still affected, like what I call my stress cup. It never goes down to zero now, because my body is still healing. Like I don't have 100% of capacity to like fill it up with stress and other things that I need to deal with still. But I have to be very aware of like where I'm going as far as how far up I'm going. Cause I know like once I get up to 80%, that I'm not going to be able to be there to do what I need to do for my kids. I'm going to get really cranky and stressed out. I'm going to have a lack of attention. I'm going to have an inability to properly problem solve for them and do all of those things that I need to do and that I want to do. And so I have to make sure that I'm monitoring my stress cup all the time, and that if it's starting to get full, adding in even more of like getting outside and some movement or any of my very long list of modalities and things that I use to counteract stress, or I'm just going to get back into that place. Like I know that in my years leading up to my cancer diagnosis as an entrepreneur, I was like 120% stress all the time, cortisol levels through the roof, not sleeping. I just had my second baby and I was burning the candle at both ends all the way into the middle. But I figured, I can sacrifice myself. I can do this because I want to be successful and I want to be able to do this. And I can do everything. I can do it all. And so that's what I was doing. But in doing it all, I wasn't giving myself the time to recover from stress, to rest, and to just be, which is very important.
Yeah, for sure. So both of you it wasn't your partner who said, okay, you need to go and do this, right? So uh, why do you think, well, so I think I have a theory is that, our partner sees, like, they see us go through these waves of, like, you have a new baby or you have a new business and all of that stuff. And there's that element of, like, maybe not necessarily wanting to see, but like the layer of the onion, it can't be someone on down the street who walks down and is like, hey, you look like you don't feel well. It has to be someone that knows enough. Like, why do you think it takes that first for someone to be like, oh shoot, like, if this is outside of my house but not like out in public and I feel terrible and this person is saying we've noticed a difference in you, why is it that kicks it off? Or why was it that kicked it off?
I think for me, I wouldn't have listened to my husband. Well, number one, he was probably just as burnt out as me, like by osmosis. And he was like working full time and like we're both just surviving. So I think leadership wise in the home, energetically, we were probably both in a state of survival, except now I was moving to a crisis state. He's too close to me. He's going to trigger the crap out of me by saying, like, you're not being yourself. And I'd be like, okay, do you have a solution? Like, you're going to make my life easier. But I do think when someone, like, that probably would have been like a little seed planter. And I can't even recall if he said anything or not. Or he's like, okay, let me take a nap. Like, I'll create space for you. Like, what do you need from me? Right. So, but he's not going to be like, we need to go to the hospital. But he did bring me the second day after I took the initiation. But I think when other people outside are noticing that, it's like, people can really see me, right? Rather than you're in your like cozy little bubble. And even just like from all of this, like even just having this conversation, there was like, I had to go get a second opinion and I couldn't afford the consult. And my best friend drove me, because I'm on a border city. She drove me across we went to the States because I'm in Canada. She paid the fee and she was like, we're getting this consult. And I was like, I can't do that. And then we went there. The doctor was like, because I got care in the States before I did Canada. So I should tell you about the healthcare system, even though everyone talks about Canada. He looked at me and he goes, I don't think you're going to make it. We need to make sure your kidneys are still functioning. And I was like, well, I can't afford these tests. And so she's like, don't worry, I got it. And I was like, wow, that's like your village of like your people. And I was so sick that I would have walked out of there without the test. I would have been like, that's okay, I'll figure it out. So assertiveness is such a beautiful skill. And I know being on the other side, and I'm sure you feel the same, of like, you can see it in other people and it's very difficult to have that boundary of like, hey, just letting you know, I can see like you're not yourself. Like I could see the train wreck coming but not going over the edge of like, I can't do this work for you, right? Like I've said it, I'm releasing it. We see this all the time. Like I say it to people on a daily basis and it gets fatiguing being that person that is the one that's always like, I'm going to say what you don't want to hear, but what you need to hear, because it triggers people. And they're like, oh, I didn't want to hear it. But I needed to hear it. So I've had to balance that within myself as well of, yeah, I'm that person that will always advocate for others, but that advocacy gets exhausting as well, which is why I think we all need to start looking in the mirror a little bit more and not being so resistant to receiving support or hearing that quote unquote feedback. Like, yeah, I'm not being myself. Maybe something is up.
Mm-hmm. And such a fine line, right? Of just like putting on your oxygen mask first, because we are so hesitant to do that. And so it does take those other people to point that out, but it is hard to get that feedback, right? So it's like, I think I'm going through this now too, but of just like being open to receive that and knowing that I'm also the leader in my own home. I know balance is so elusive, but I don't like even using that word, but it's important to just recognize your ownership and be open to receive too.
I feel like this comes up so much with the idea of like, if everything falls in your lap all the time, and you're the one that everyone defers to, I think it sets you up for a position of not feeling like you can turn around and be like, actually, I can't do this right now, or if someone is like, but I count on you to be the person to do these things, whether they say it or don't say it, and probably more commonly don't say it, but you're the emergency contact, you're the last line on the field, you're everything. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, who's my line? Like, how do where are my people? And so like when you have friends, when you have, in-laws, when you have all these people that are like, we're in the stadium, we're not on the field with you, but we notice that you're not playing to your fullest capacity. And we're wondering if maybe you should check it in. I'll just run this metaphor all the way down. But it's just this idea of like, where do we want to hear it from? Because I think there's such a problem in the messaging, especially for moms these days, that you can do all the things and be all the things and carry all the things. And it all just circles back to like, we're all people who all put our pants on one leg at a time. My capacity to deal with stuff is no more than the person next to me. So why is it all landing on me?
Yeah.
Because you said yes.
Yeah.
Sucker.
I know. Then, like, 10 years down the line, you're like, where did we get off course? Like, little by little became a lot real fast.
I had to start writing my friends, my clients, my team. Who would you like me to be for you? Like, I flat out say that. Oh, I don't have the capacity for that. I can't be who you need me to be. And I realized even the friends, air quotes, that I was like, oh, I think you want free therapy from me. Yeah. Like, no, that's not happening. And so I said, I can't be who you need me to be for you. And I had to be okay disappointing people. Like, if you want to go for a walk and talk, happy to do that. But if you want free therapy and it can't be this give and take energy, this dynamic is not going to serve me. And it was very difficult. And I was like, well, oh my God, I was telling everybody. Yeah. I also get triggered when it's like, check on your friends. I was like, I check on everybody. I need the opposite. Can somebody check on me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And also I feel like I used to be like, okay, you need me here. I'm there. Okay, I'll answer the phone. I'll call you back. Even though I feel like I'm getting negative energy from this person, but I'm going to be their friend anyway, because that's what we do, right? And now I realize, no, that is not what I do. Now, if a relationship feels kind of icky to me, there's a reason why it feels icky. And I've given myself permission to edit a lot of people out of my lives, or just to set a lot of parameters around that relationship. Like, I can have a relationship with this person in that capacity where, we're interacting around something that we have to do. But I don't need to feel like I have to be their sounding board all the time. And as you said, free therapist, or always showing up for them. I've given myself permission to do a lot of things, to say no to a lot of things, to allow myself space. And yeah, I think it's that sometimes relationships that they may be someone who's like labeled a good friend, they're not productive for you. They're not helpful for you. And it's okay to decide that relationship has changed and it's run its course, and you don't have to stay friends forever.
Yeah. No, that's good. I feel like that's something that I like just midlife brings too. I mean, I think there's an aspect of when you go through something like cancer too, you just realize what's important. I have not had cancer. I don't know. But I feel like you do start editing your life, right? Of like, what is more important? And if I only had 2 years to live, like, how do I really want to live? I think we just take things for granted too frequently and just either put things off or don't have the conversation, or just keep trudging ahead like we always do as women, as moms, thinking that we can do it all. But I think there's power in that pause of recognizing what is good for me and not feeling like that's selfish. It's kind of what I'm hearing you guys say too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like as we move through, we have people that it's what is the phrase? They're there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I don't remember where I heard that first, but I remember being like, oh yeah, and you can, and that doesn't mean that like, if something doesn't work, it doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden like, person off the cliff. Like you can still see these people. It's just how much time and energy do you invest into these relationships, knowing that what the limitations of the returns are for that. And that's not to say like there has to be like a scorekeeping element to it, but like you're both saying, like if you are the one who's checking on them, if you are the one who is being the sounding board, if you are the one who is, doing the group pickup and all of this stuff over and over again, what is that friendship based on? Is that friendship based on two people that have shared sort of, I don't know, pathways or interests or whatever? Or is it based on the convenience of that other person? Because that's really what it is. If someone is like, let me just dump all my stuff on your lap. Can you grab this? Can you do this? Can you call this? It's a friendship of convenience and it's a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say what's coming up for me?
Yeah.
So humans we don't grieve well. And I remember when I was diagnosed, my, of course, identity, life was like, quote unquote, shattered. And I remember everyone needing me, like in the sense of like, you're the rock and you're not okay. So what do I do? And I realized, I was like, I don't have capacity to like manage your stuff. I didn't realize how much I was managing for everybody else. But at the core of all of this, the whole like people in your life for a reason or a season, everything is temporary. And I think when you've had an experience in life, like you've had a near-death experience or like you've lost somebody or you're going to lose somebody, we just are not good at grief. And I am grieving like on a daily basis. I'm grieving and like every quarter I'm like reinventing myself. And I was like, okay, that person's not working on the team, like someone new. But I really liked her. And I was like, Heather, like she's still in your life, but like you have to grieve and feel that your relationship is changing, or like my kids are getting older, or my body is changing. And I'm like, oh, grief needs to be just as important as like fueling my body with food and hydration and exercise. Like it actually makes your life lighter and integrated. But if we can feel the grief, we can also feel the joy. We can feel the connection. We can feel the love. Where I'm at today, I just fully understand that everything is temporary, like people, emotions, states, bank accounts, like everything is temporary. Economy, everything is temporary. And if you can ride this wave and figure out how to quote unquote manage the energy of the wave, that is like the integration that we're seeking. It's not like, if I do this, then this will happen. So yeah, I just curious.
Do you feel like we avoid grief because agreed wholeheartedly, right? Like no one wants anything to end, no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like we avoid grief? We carry on with all of these things, right? It's like when you come out of your car and you really needed a bag, but you just try and stack everything up on once. Like, do we do that do we try and just hold on to things even when they've run their course so that we avoid grief, is what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, you avoid feelings. That's why my podcast is called Emotionally Uncomfortable. I'm like, we want to feel lighter, but we don't want to let go of anything. We want more space, but we refuse to take things off of our to-do list. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. So once we can start calling ourselves out, like my clients all the time are like, now I have time and space. Oh no, the shoe's going to drop. And I was like, yes, because your identity and your nervous system are not yet used to this new state of being. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you gotta feel.
That was reminding me of, I found that I felt this like huge burden of responsibility, emotional responsibility, whenever I had to tell someone that I had cancer, because they would get upset and they would cry. And so I would dread talking to people. So I started avoiding people. Finally, I nominated one of my friends as like the designator sharer of news. And I was like, can you please just call everyone that we know in different friend circles and tell them, because I've found I was so traumatized. And instead of thinking about what I was going through, I was so worried about the other person's feelings and how they were going to react and if they were going to be okay and how they were going to feel about they were interacting with me. And it took on this whole other life outside of me just dealing with the situation of my illness and how I was feeling. And then it took me a long time to get to a place where I'm like, you know what? I need to like purge myself of that and realize that other people are responsible for their own feelings and be able to arrive at the conversation and not invest myself in that way and not feel like I needed to carry the burden of whatever they were feeling or how they were processing, and just be able to hold space for them and be like, okay, this is a little bit of an uncomfortable situation and conversation, but you know what? It's okay for them to be upset. And it's okay for them to be angry. It's okay for them. Those are their feelings because I'm a huge empath. I don't need to absorb all of those things because that had been sort of like my MO of going along, and why I had a lot of relationships that felt like that, because I was really good at making people feel better because I intrinsically just understood what they were going through. And I feel like that was a big part of my healing process because I think I had absorbed other people's trauma along with my own and a lot of other people's emotions and bottled all of that inside. And it was part of what was really eating at me, and eating at my gut was like my own negative emotions, my own stress, but also all of that stress that I was taking on from other people that were in my life too.
Everyone thinks we need to like detox from like parasites. We need to medically detox, like, because it's so true what you just said, like eating away, and you could feel it. You're like, oh, wow, I have to implement these boundaries, and learning to implement them is one thing. But then when you're like, I don't have the capacity, like, putting those people in place, which is brilliant, because now you can identify like, I can't handle their reaction because we take it on. They're like little sponges. And yeah, most of the time we don't need to declutter our closets. We need to declutter all the
So
crap
true.
we're not people.
Right?
All the
It's
stuff
so
you can't
true.
see.
Yeah, we need to declutter our internal closets. I always like refer to that I have this sort of like chest where I've been dumping things. And I do every now and then say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through it and I'm going to pull out all of these things and like look at them from sort of like an outside third person perspective and be like, okay, wow, that was really uncomfortable. I didn't like that. And I can process it now because it's been a year or a few months, and I'm going to like get rid of that and kind of like letting go of things. And I'll have like a little personal ceremony of like releasing myself from all those things in my closet or chest or whatever it is that you want to call it.
I think about when you talk about like clearing out the stuff that no longer suits, like I identify with this in terms of the pandemic experience, because that was for me like having everything be full, right? Like the stress cup, the stress bucket, the stress, like everything is going sideways. I had a 2-day-old baby when the world went into lockdown, and I remember people were calling, and everyone's calling each other and everyone's texting each other, and they're like, what do we do? Oh my gosh, wait, let's get together. Like, let's be a pod. Let's do all of these things. And I remember being like, I'm done. Like, I'm literally done. I left group chats. I left group messages. It was like, I went full ostrich, and it was the best thing ever because it was hard. And that's, it wasn't super fun, 0 out of 10 on the fun scale, but it was that time of like, I've hit the limit and now I've got to shut it all down, focus on the things that I need to focus on, which are like, my 1-week-old baby who isn't gaining weight, and my 2-year-old who's like bouncing off the walls, and my 7-year-old who wants to go back to school, and my 5-year-old who wants to be in preschool with his friends again. And me being like, I think that everything is like a complete disaster, and like they're telling us we've got to wipe down our groceries, and like I don't even know, everything is on fire. But I think about the process of coming out of that in terms of like relationships that got restarted and people that were a part of my life after that. And for me, like there was a whole dump truck full of clarity around like, oh, we were friends because it was convenient, or we were friends because of this, this, and this, which I actually don't care about. And so the follow up on these relationships, like I will say hi and I will see you, but like, that's it. And it was a really great, wonderful, magical way to put boundaries in place because it didn't at the time, and I don't think I could have, it didn't involve me saying, this isn't working for me. It was like, no, we're in lockdown. And then choosing what to sprinkle back in.
You got a clean slate. It's one of those silver linings of the pandemic. You're like, if there are any.
I do think though, like there's a lot of clarity that comes around that stuff, right? It's like when the bucket is full, we all have that point. Like some people, everyone's got a different size bucket, but some people, the bucket's very small, and some people it's enormous. And some people it's one thing is a big rock in the bucket. And that is what tips it over for everybody else. But I think what both of you are saying in terms of like knowing yourself and knowing what's right for you and knowing what feels good and maintaining the relationships with people in your life where it is working in both directions, and it's something that makes you feel more whole, more relaxed, more seen, more, a part of a community, and choosing to focus on that versus I'm just really sad about, like, some of these people I don't talk to anymore were like great friends of mine, air quotes, that I saw all the time, like went on vacation together. And now I'm like, I'm good. Like, thank you for being a part of my life at that point in time. I think it's just, we all have a different space.
Yeah. And that's okay. You can still cherish that friendship for what it was in that space and time and that other season of your life, because things do change so rapidly and we don't have to hold on to things in the exact same way that they were. It's okay to let things go, to release things, and you can still appreciate them and still have, a positive memory of what they were in that space too.
For sure.
And I would think that,
go ahead. I was just going to say, I think just that stripping away of so many things too. It's not just relationships, it's even the mindset, right? Of like, which was so great about the pandemic of like, we don't need to hustle anymore. Like we can actually breathe. I think for me, that was like, it was shitty on all fronts, right? Being home with children. But I was like, oh, I don't need to be anywhere, or I don't need to commute. I can just let go of these ideas that I had of like, sure, I'm still ambitious, but it just looked differently. And I think that was so freeing. And I know, Heather, you talk a lot about this too in your work of just like, we try to wear and we all talk about it, but like wearing this badge of hustle and grind and this, I wear the cape and I'm the superwoman. And it's like, but all for what? And I think there was that moment in the pandemic of like, oh, I can just let it all fall and redefine everything, which is part of that grief too, right? When it's an identity.
Yeah. Like, who are you trying to prove yourself to? And who are you doing this for? And if you just like, go, oh shit, I'm trying to prove to like my mom, my dad, like whatever it is, like, and then where we are now in 2025, I tell people like, please don't wait for another pandemic to give yourself permission to realign your life or a diagnosis. Because so many people are like, this is great. This is great. And I said, but remember, there is an invisible boundary that was externally forced upon you. So this is codependency. So as soon as this is gone, you are going to re-enter your life the same way you were previously. So if you don't consciously decide to change, that is called codependency. And that is not sustainable because you will always wait for something else to shift externally in order for you to then change your behavior. And you're only acting from a place of survival or crisis. So you'll never actually get to a thrival state if you are always seeking like outside in to change, AKA like your kids to turn a certain age or the sun to shine or whatever it is. So I have to remember that constantly and go, okay, what would I change different? Like, what would I do? What would I shift if I'm waiting for that thing to happen? How would I act now? What would I, and it's not fun. Like it's very difficult because it's minute things, because it is so easy when you are living in a state of abundance, air quotes, whether you've made some extra money, whether you have extra time, whether you have extra energy, to not then give it away and then end up in the exact same spot again. Whether you're like, how did I get here again to the state of burnout or overwhelm? It's because we have to be very, very solid in our vision of like, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And it's very manipulative because life feels so fast. But the reality is we can slow down. You just have to give yourself permission to, doesn't have to be forever. It could be an hour. Just sit, stop, duct tape yourself to a chair, chill.
What you're saying is bring
messages when your mother-in-law needs to talk to you.
As an example, completely unrelated to anything.
right. You totally just made that up right now.
Exactly.
What that was bringing up for me is thinking about this idea of external validation and how that can get us into so much trouble. Like, it's the comparison on our Instagram, on all the things. But when our value comes from the outside, from we're waiting for someone else to tell us what's important, it's always changing and you can never catch up because there's always going to be someone else that says something else or someone else that you can compare yourself to. And it's not till you get into a point where, and it's holding hands with intuition, knowing what is it that I want? It sounds really simple, but it's a big question. And honestly, I didn't know what that answer was. Like, what do I want right now? What would make me happy? And I know that so many women don't know the answer to that question. And it starts like that is really the root of finding your path and where you want to go is understanding like emotionally, spiritually, like what is it that makes you feel like you're successful? For me, it's having purpose. For some people, it's money. It's different. But if you don't know what it is that lights you up, what it is that makes you feel successful, if you don't know what you want out of life, then how can you know where you're going? How can you understand? And once you see what that is, it just everything becomes really clear because you're like, oh, you know what? Money isn't what makes me feel the most successful. It's feeling like I have a purpose and that I'm working towards something that's going to help someone else. And that's not what someone else is going to feel successful and validated from. So you have to be able to answer that question. And now I feel like I just totally lost where I was going with this. But yeah, it's like all those things that come from the inside, like what do I want out of life? Who am I? What makes me feel like I am a success? And then not comparing yourself constantly to other people and what their definition of success is, because you're never going to be able to get to someone else's version of success because it won't feel authentic to you. And your mind is never going to accept it as success. It's never going to be like, oh, I got as many followers as so and so. I made as much money. If that's not what your core version of success is. So you have to answer that question first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really important the challenge is to figure out how to do that. What works for you? What are the pieces that are your non-negotiables without going through a pandemic, without having a major medical diagnosis, and that's the part that is so hard to do because we live in a world where everyone tells you what you want all the time. They tell you that you want to, I don't know, that you want to be able to run this, to lift this, to wear this, to buy this, to go here, to do all of these things. And, some people that those things are important, but we have so much flooding into our world day after day that I think it's so easy to just be like, I guess this is what it's supposed to be. Like if you're not following your own intuition, if you are ignoring the things that you know are right for you or not, if you're just sort of like, I guess I sheep along and, like everyone's supposed to have a house that looks like this, and everyone's supposed to have a 1-year-old car, or this like $1,000 stroller, all of these things. But like, do you really care about that at the end of the day? And I think that is such a underestimated lift for people, because it involves shutting everything out and getting really serious about what is important to you and what is of value to you. I think it's really, really hard to do.
I'm going to give an example of this. So, okay, one, I had to stop saying things are hard, because hard, where I think as women, we're addicted to hard. We enjoy this like suffering, like, oh, it's really hard. So I tell myself it's emotionally uncomfortable, right? So, it's hard to focus. It's hard to shut everything out. No, it's just emotionally uncomfortable. So if I can ease into an emotional discomfort, I know it's a growth opportunity and a growth edge of like, don't check Instagram, or don't reply to the text, or sit with your journal for 5 minutes, or do 20 jumping jacks to try to get yourself to focus on what do I want. We just purchased, which is like a super big dream of ours. We purchased like this cottage, and I host these retreats for women. It is fascinating to watch and observe everyone's opinion when they come there of what I should change or do. And I understand they like internal design, but it is like, it's an older cottage and we're updating as we go, but they're like, I have a list of everything you need to change in here, do this and do this. And I have challenged myself to sit with my own emotional discomfort of this is not enough, to go, I'm curious why you feel like you need to control that right now. And it is fascinating to watch and observe my discomfort of like, it's not enough. And I was like, Heather, is that a priority for you? Absolutely not. That is their preference. It is not a priority. And the only reason why they're telling you what to do is because they're trying to control, because they're uncomfortable right now. But it has been fascinating to watch just the little seeds of planting, like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I was like, this is the exact same thing of what we do, trying to keep up with the Joneses, or, oh, it's not enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And when you can catch yourself, you're like, I am goodness just by existing in the world. Like, I love podcasting when nobody sees my face, because they're just hearing my wisdom. I could be sitting there, no bra on, PJs, out of bed, nobody knows, because what is in me is coming out, and that's what we're connected to. It's not all crap that we have, or, did you go to Europe this summer? Like, where are you in the world? So I think we need to get back to the core basics, because that's what we're talking about here, is like, what feels purposeful for you? What makes you feel alive? What's the life you want to be living? And let's just stop waiting for shit to hit the fan in order for us to take action and be honest with ourselves.
Absolutely. I also want to point out the difference between a Canadian and an American in that story, because my whole family is from like an hour from where you live. So, and I grew up in Canada, and I moved here in high school. And like, the way that you're telling this cracks me up, because if you went to like a US like cottage or whatever, people would be like, oh, this is nice. And no one would say anything, right? But like up there, people are like, oh, the color, really? What are you going to do with the color? Like, it's just like, it comes out, and there's no breaks. It's just like, here are all the thoughts and opinions I have, versus like here, it would be like, wow, I really love what you've done with the place. Like, it's so rustic. And you're just like, like, we're not quite the South, but like, there is no bless your heart where I live. I'm in New England. There is no bless your heart, but like, there's an equivalent of like long silent pauses. But I just love it. Oh, I love Canadians. You guys are my people.
Well, it's all like Americans that are telling me this too. It's not really Canadian.
It cracks me up.
I was like, what would you think I care?
Right? Yeah.
Like, you're on a retreat. Relax.
Yeah. Go enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's because I'm really uncomfortable. I take their phones away and everything. So they're like,
they're just mad at you.
Maybe I gotta talk.
They're like filling the space, just trying to fill the space with something so they don't have to get to the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Procrastination tactic.
My gosh. I tell my kids, like, my goal in life is to get rid of my phone. My goal in life is to have a flip phone that has 5 numbers in it. That's it. Like, what's your measure of success? Never owning one of these ever again. Like, throwing it off a bridge.
It's so true.
We're swinging back.
I've been so working on weaning myself from it, and I've gotten really good where, all of a sudden look at it and be like, oops, I missed those story shares because I haven't looked at my Instagram in 24 hours. And nothing gives me so stressed as like when you get down into too much social media. Yeah. It's a real trigger for everyone, right? Like, who isn't triggered by that? And it's like all of a sudden you're, oh my gosh, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. I'm not doing this like they are. And, I feel like that is the most stressful and anxiety inducing thing that we all have access to at all times. And like, I see my husband doing it too. He loves to sit in a chair when he's relaxing and troll through Instagram for hours. But unlike me, who's like looking at other people in the same space and comparing myself, he's watching tutorials on how to fix his car or how to do electrical wiring. And so it's a completely different situation for him.
It's just a whole other world raising kids in it too, of not having grown up with it, and like, I don't know how to navigate this, but I just, in the same way, I just want to throw it out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to simple time.
Well, and it's, it's the idea too, is like everything that we've talked about here, right, is about listening to yourself. It's about going from the inside out. It's about not being drowned by all of the inputs. Yet, unfortunately, we're all raising children in a world that doesn't look anything like what we came. Like, I think that we have a reference point for what it was before it was all of this. They don't. And so, like, my 2 of my kids are better than I am about stuff. Like, they're like, I don't want to see that right now. Or just like put it down and walk away, which drives me crazy because I'm like, not for any purpose other than like when they put the phone down and walk away, they're not home. And I'm like, but I need to call you. So it's like, I'm trying to get a hold of you because I need you to come home from the library because you've been there for 3 hours. And they're like, oh, my phone, like whatever. Okay. Well, how do we tiptoe on that line?
I'm right there with you. I don't know. I don't have a solution yet other than wanting to take all their devices away.
Should we talk about, because I know we've been talking about how important it is to carve out time for ourselves and how to take care of ourselves, but maybe we should talk about some of our non-negotiables or how it is that we really are making space to do that.
Love that. Yeah. How to give yourself permission and even give yourself permission to disappoint others. Yeah. How do you create that space?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I always start my day with everyone in my house knows that you don't want to talk to me about anything before 7:30. So, that's when I get up, I do some movement, journal, just think, right? I know that I have that time in the morning that I can, dive into anything that was emotionally uncomfortable, but that I know that I need to address, look at things that I might have jotted down, explore anything that I need to do. And so I have that time in the morning. There's some movement, there's some self-reflection, there's some meditation. I alternate what I do in the morning, kind of dependent on how I feel when I wake up. I'm like, okay, what part of my mind, body, and soul needs more nourishment? And then that's what I lean into during that time. But I know that I've poured some into my cup, bailed some of my stress cup out, and like arrived at that 7:30 space where I can like kind of dive into being as close to 100% as I can for the morning with my kids and, the work day and all the other things that I need to do. So for me, it's like knowing that I have that time is my non-negotiable in the way that I start my day. And my husband leaves for work around 7:30. So it's like he does the early shift. And that's how we're able to work it out.
I like that. What about you, Heather? What are your non-negotiables?
So I would say at this point in my journey, I think about it very differently. I think when there were seasons and times where I had to attach actions to like rituals and like people are like, what's your morning routine? I don't have one. And I, at this point, is very integrated because 24 hours a day, my brain focuses on how do I want to feel because I've convinced myself, like I've put in the reps that I'm not abandoning mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So my non-negotiables are to not self-abandon too long, in the sense of, I may be in a busy work season and I might have to get more done, but I'm using the symptoms of my physical, mental, emotional bodies to realign. So if I'm like, I got to sit down, I got to do 3 hours of work, I don't want to do that. But if that's my tendency, I'm like, what do I need mentally, physically? I'm like, okay, I need a meal, I need hydration, I need to see the sun. So it's like a co-creation at this point. But in the early stages, like this is my energetic type management framework that I teach. In the early stages, I physically had to put things on the calendar and make them non-negotiables. And I still have it now, but it really is dependent on like what my goals are or what my focus is. So my non-negotiables now, I would say, are to not give away time and energy to things that are not in alignment with my vision. So I'm actually in a season of no more than yes. And I have to be very strategic. Is this in alignment with my bigger vision? Like for myself, my family, our financial goals, the business goals, because I was saying yes to like all the good things, like, yes, I'll do this. Yes, that brings me joy. Yes, 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 yes. Good people. And now I'm like, there's so much goodness, but it's a refinement stage. And even my physical body, like it took me 10 years for my body. Like I would go to the gym. It took me 10 years for my physical body not to shut down when I was like lifting a 5-pound weight. Like I felt like 100-year-old woman where I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And I had to play with my body of like, when can I push? When can I let go? And I just kind of went through a season because I trained for crazy endurance events. I'm not training right now, but now I'm in more of like, let's do the boring work daily, consistently, but like 20 minutes a day. So I'm in this like consistency phase right now. It's not sexy at all. And it's challenging me.
I think that's important to point out. Like, so much about the things that we do are not sexy. Like consistency, showing up, like, editing down, all of that stuff. None of that, the market for that is not, that's not going to show up in your Instagram stories.
No.
It's the saying no, it's the putting the boundaries around. What about you, Erin?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of feelings too. So anomaly here, like I'm a single mom, so weekends are typically hard for me just because there is no structure. And I'm like, I want to get out of the house and go have fun. Come on, girls, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to do that. And finding that balance and encouragement without getting frustrated, I find lately is challenging. My girls are 12 and 14. And so, of course, we're on like, the teenage years too. But it all comes back to me wanting to be that good leader for them to model and knowing. And of course, like my vision changes. I mean, it's not going to like dramatically shift, right? But I think there are seasons where it ebbs and flows. And it's just like, no, I want to be connected to my kids right now. I know the years are dwindling that I have with them. I want to go have fun. And that's been like my motivating factor lately. And it's just like, I want to smile and feel good with you guys. Getting out the door and putting shoes on is still an issue though. So, but yeah, I mean, in terms of non-negotiables, it is all the unsexy stuff, right? Like I need to move my body. I need sunshine. I'm just a plant. And basically like just put me outside in the sun, give me some water and I'm happy. So yeah. What about you, Ashley?
Right. It's so simple.
It is. We make it so complicated.
It's the simple things that are the most important. I always say that so much of the things I've learned are things that like my grandmother told me to do. Eat slowly, take your time, spend time with people that you care about, make sure you get enough exercise, go outside, slow down, like all of those
All the
things.
things.
And the more and more I learn about my own health and wellness is those are the things that we really need to do. And if we can just get back in touch with all of that, that is what is right and is going to, do the best, I think, to keep you healthy. Eat fruits and vegetables. Don't eat processed foods. Like we know all of these things, right? And there's so many articles. And it's like 5 things to eat for this, 5 things for that. Honestly, eat fresh fruit and vegetables and drink enough water, get outside, get some exercise, take care of yourself. Like we know all of these things, but they're hard to do.
Mm-hmm. They're hard because it's not, the packaging isn't there, right?
They're not shiny.
They're not
They're
shiny.
not shiny.
And it's not, there's no instant benefit. And I saw this when I worked as an inpatient therapist for a long time. The people that I saw that were in their, 90s, like early, mid, late 90s, I had a couple of patients that were over 100 who were amazing. But they were the people that, like, they had gardened their whole life and they had walked and they didn't watch TV, or like they watched like one show like once or twice a week or whatever, but they were always moving. And I worked with a physical therapist who used to say, motion is lotion. And I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. But, total bumper sticker moment. But it was these people that just had this inertia in their own life of like, I drink the water, I get the exercise, I see my friends, I do these things, all of this stuff. And I will always plug Pond's cold cream. If you want to see a woman who's in her late 90s with absolutely perfect skin, I will bet you the farm that woman has used Pond's cold cream since she was 20 years old. This stuff is like $4 a canister in the drugstore. And like far and away, you can see these people across. You're like, how is your skin? Pond's cold cream.
Why didn't we This would have been a great opener. I Google this now. What is this?
Pond's cold cream. It's like, this lotion, you put it on.
I feel like my grandmother used this.
I know.
Like when you open the can and you smell it, you're going to be like, oh my God, that's grandma. But it's like $4.59. I'm not kidding.
I'm going to go get some.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, it's so simple.
Like, how do I spell it?
Ponds. It's white and it has like a green top on it. I gave it to my daughter. I don't even wash my face. Again, motherhood. I don't even wash my face as consistently as I need to, but I gave it to my daughter and I'm like, only use this. Don't get involved in these 12-step processes. Yeah.
Does it smell like
it smells like, it's not bad. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a bad smell, but it's like it's not like a 5-year-old fruity lip smacker smell. So I think that's the change. But like I see all these kids and they're like, oh, my Sephora, whatever. And then they have these 12 stuff. I'm like, Pond's cold cream. I already got it.
I am actually going to go and get some. And like all of this money that we spend on so many skincare products and things that we're putting on our face and all the things. I don't know about your kids, but the Sephora haul of things they want. I'm like, don't put that on hydrochloric acid. Don't put that on your face. Like they're so young for all of that. Yeah. There's so much out there. Like they're just being bombarded by all of those things. It's like the constant influx of media and like things that are coming at us all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's forever teaching our kids how to have better boundaries than we've had. Trying to teach ourselves boundaries through teaching them boundaries. It's more boundaries all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much input and information, and this skill that we all need to learn right now is discernment and back to self of like, what is true for me?
Yeah.
And from the inside out. And then you're like, yeah, baby, I'm getting me some cream.
Yeah. And knowing that I was going to say, and knowing that what's good for you is good for you, and that what's good for someone else doesn't have to be good for you.
Exactly.
That I think that's the emotionally uncomfortable muscle. Well, I would love for you guys to let everybody know where they can find you and follow along, because you both have podcasts and you both have books and you have programs and all of the things. So let people know where they can find you, please.
You can find me. My website is amrikibbler.com. I'm at Amri Kibbler on Instagram. And my podcast is at the space between _cancer.family. And my other podcast is at Leaning Into Being podcast.
My podcast called Emotionally Uncomfortable, book Dying to Be a Good Mother. You check me out, Heather Chauvin, CHAUV, as in Victor, not BIN. Check, Instagram, all the things.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, guys. This was great. And, we started heavy, and I think that's important. But we were going to circle back on the face cream. And now we're all come full circle around.
That was the freebie tip. You get all the way through this conversation. If you stay at the end of a webinar, I mean, that was the value in itself.
Yeah,
they
right.
just paid themselves thousands of dollars.
I'm not
We're
kidding.
all going to run to CVS.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Buy whatever chapstick you want, but only put one thing on your face. I'm telling you, you're going to look like a doll when you're 95. It's unbelievable. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.